Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan from stepbysteppainting.net, and in this painting tutorial I'm going to show you how to paint this winter sunset scene with snowmen. I'm doing this on an 11 by 14 inch canvas panel. This is a Phoenix Art brand canvas panel that I bought from Amazon, and I really liked this panel. I will probably be using these more often because I really like the texture of it and that the panels are easy to store because I do a lot of paintings. I am going to start out by making my horizon line, and the landscape design of this painting has the horizon line going exactly in the middle of the canvas. So I'm going to use my T-square ruler to draw a horizontal line right there in the middle. I'm going to start with the sky in this painting, and there's three colors in the sky: titanium white, Quinacridone Magenta, and later on I'll be using some primary yellow. What I'm going to do first is mix a very light pink color on my palette, and this pink is very similar to the color of Pepto-Bismol, so it's going to look like a Pepto-Bismol pink. It's probably about 4 parts white, 1 part quinacridone. So on your palette, mix it together until you get that light pink color. And we're going to start at the top of our painting and do left and right strokes. This is a 3/4 inch flat brush, by the way. So I'm going to load that with the light pink, do left and right strokes across the top part of the canvas. Go about 1 to 2 inches down. I forgot to load my brush in the water to begin with, so I added a teeny bit of water in there, and that got the paint to flow a little bit nicer. So you want to use the full width of your brush and gently brush back and forth all the way across. So you want to go from one side to the other and not stop in the middle. Then you want to load your brush in some titanium white. So I grabbed a big chunk of titanium white on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to do what is called wet on wet blending. That white is going to gently blend with that pink in the upper part of the sky. So I'm going to take that white and kind of blend it up, and then I'm going to work my way down the canvas. So I want my pink to get lighter and lighter as it goes towards where the horizon will be. So the brightest part of the sky is going to be where that sun is setting. So the color is getting lighter and brighter. Also, it's going to help with the transition of the blend to the yellow when we have all this white down here. So you want your white to go to leave about 2 inches of space above the horizon line, and we're going to transition to yellow. So we're going to load our palette in primary yellow, and we're going to rinse our brush off. Give your brush a good rinse to get all of that pink and white off, and blot it with the paper towel. Then you're going to load your brush in some titanium white and yellow. So if you need to freshen up your white, you can do so, because we're going to mix about equal amounts of white and yellow together to get a very light yellow. I'm going to start below the pink area, and I'm going to gently brush up. So this is going to help with the transition of the blend. I'm going to load my palette in some more titanium white so that I can mix some more of that with the yellow. And very gently blend it back up into the pink area. And it doesn't have to look like it's blending perfectly together. You can just take that yellow and just kind of gently blend some streaks of yellow that go up into the pink area. So I'm just going to take my yellow and gently blend that left and right and go up into the pink area, but not all the way up. And then I'm going to add a little bit more white into this area in the lower right because I know that's where my sun is going to be. So that is going to be a very bright area. And then I'm switching my brush, so full width in this big area, but then when you get down to the horizon line area, you can turn your brush kind of sideways, horizontal to get a thinner stroke. So you can hold it this way so you can get closer to the horizon line, and then you can turn your brush to the full width for the thicker areas. So try not to paint under your horizon line, but if you do, that's okay because the water is actually going to be the same colors of our sky anyway. So we're done with the sky and we're going to move on to the water. And like I said, the water is going to be the same color of the sky, but it's going to create this opposite mirror effect where we're going to start with the yellow under the horizon line and we're going to blend it to the light pink, and then the bottom of the water area will be more of the darker pink. So we're going to start with a fresh brush. We're going to completely rinse it off and start with the titanium white. So I'm going to just apply titanium white paint just under the horizon line, and adding that white first really helps to set the stage where we're going to be blending. So adding that base of titanium white, and then we're going to add in some primary yellow and start blending down, going left and right horizontally. So grab that yellow on the brush, start below that white, and paint left and right strokes so that it blends with that white. And then you're going to continue to add more white in there, and you're going to paint towards the middle of the water. So this water is going to go pretty much all the way down, almost all the way down, except you're going to leave about an inch, inch and a half gap at the bottom. So blending it to that light yellow in the middle. And then when you're ready, you can mix your light pink color. So I didn't have to rinse my brush that time because I had a lot of white on my brush already and not so much yellow anymore. But if you have a whole bunch of yellow on your brush, you can rinse it off when you transition to the pink. So you're going to do the light pink. And I made this kind of streaky on purpose because it's water, and water texture has a lot of horizontal lines in it, so that was okay. So this bottom area is the lighter pink. Gently blend that back up into the yellow. If you don't want so much orange in it, then you don't have to over blend it. It can just change from yellow to light pink. And then we're going to add some more white in that area. And eventually on the very bottom, we're going to have more of a darker pink color. And so I'm just taking this white and kind of blending different areas with that pink and the yellow. Maybe I'll grab a little bit more yellow in there and add a few streaks of yellow into the water down here, maybe subtly at the bottom. So it doesn't have to be a perfect transition of each color. You can leave it streaky and unblended. And keep in mind that the colors in this sky and water are very light. So I used a lot of titanium white, a lot more titanium white than the yellow and the pink. And so that creates a very soft pastel look in the sky and the water just by using way more titanium white than normal. And then right here on the bottom, I decided to add a bit more of the Quinacridone Magenta. So it's actually going to be a tad bit darker than that peak that's at the top of the sky. Gives it just a bit more contrast in that area, and it looks really good when you add the snow up against that darker area. It gives it that extra pop. So I actually rinsed my brush off a little bit so that I can grab more pure quinacridone, and I gently added that right there at the bottom area and blended it back up. Also, I did leave a gap at the bottom. It's about a 2 fingers width of a gap. That's where that bottom snow area is going to be. And That's why I didn't paint all the way down. If you wanted to paint all the way down, you can, because we'll just wait for it to dry and then paint the white snow over it. So if you feel more comfortable just painting all the way down, you can. But like I said, I'm just taking this quinacridone. It's slightly darker than the dark part of the top part of the sky, and I'm just blending it in, adding a bit of water to my brush to help blend it back up, but just be very careful because that quinacridone is darker than that light pink, and I don't want to lose all that soft pastel color in the water. So I'm just grabbing some more white in there and gently blending it back up. And it's okay to have the horizontal streaks in the water because it kind of gives it that water texture. And I just subtly added the horizontal lines kind of up into the yellow area. So I think I'm done with my water here. I'm going to transition to the snow. And I'm going to use this brand new color that I picked up from Liquitex Basics. It's called Blue Gray. It is literally a gray that has a hint of blue in it. And in the description and on the blog post, I will show you how to make blue gray if you don't have blue gray or you can't find blue gray at the store. And I'm going to use titanium white. So these are the two colors I'm going to use for the snow. The blue gray is going to be for the shadowing of the snow, and of course the white is going to be because snow is white. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mix probably about 3 parts white, 1 part of the blue-gray to make a very, very light blue-gray color. I'm going to use my 4 round brush and I'm going to paint this snowy hill that's way in the distance. It's going to be kind of a wavy line right there above the horizon line. So I'm going to start over at the left and just kind of paint this hill that goes down really close to the horizon line. And then I'm going to paint that across the horizon line. And so my hill kind of dips down. Maybe it gets kind of higher and wobbly. And it's going to dip down very low over here on the right where that sun is going to be. And I'm going to decide to paint my sun in as well. So instead of rinsing my brush off to paint the sun, I happen to grab another number 4 round brush. So this is also a number 4 round brush. And for the sun, I mixed white and yellow together. So maybe about equal parts yellow and white, the primary yellow and titanium white. And then I'm going to paint my sun. So this sun is dipping down below the horizon line. So just paint a half circle shape and fill it in to create your sun. And maybe the height of it is probably about 2 fingers high. And just fill that in. I often paint with 2 brushes in my hand, switching back and forth between the 2 brushes, because a lot of times I just don't want to rinse it off, so I want to just switch the brush from one hand to the next, or I'll have 2 different size brushes, one in one hand and one in the other, and switch off. But I'm back to this other number 4 round brush, and I'm going to continue painting the hill. And so this hill dips down. I'm not going to paint over the sun, but later on I will paint the kind of the bottom area, but I didn't want to mix that yellow in there. So for now, I'll just leave that area blank. And then over here on the right, I wanted this land to kind of dip down into the water. So perhaps it's kind of circling downwards and the water's not going exactly all the way across horizontally. And then I added a little bit more of darker gray tones in there. Keep in mind that this is way in the distance, so there's not much detail that needs to happen in this land area. And maybe over here on the left, it kind of dips down a little bit, but not as far as where it dips down on the right. And then I'm going to add a little bit more white up there. Later on, I'll add some more white, but for now, I'm just giving it some color variation. Perhaps the top part is lighter and it kind of gets shadowy towards the bottom. But like I said, it's way far away, so we really don't need to worry too much about details. And I'm going to take a chance right here and do that gray right there under the sun. So we have that land that's right there under the sun in that area. And my yellow mixed with it a little bit, but that's okay. I'm speeding this part of the video up just a tad bit, but all I'm doing is just adding a few more coats of white in there on my hill in the distance. And then we're going to paint the hill on the bottom. So pretty much kind of the same thing. We're going to mix the blue-gray with the white to make a very light gray color. And we're going to add the hill on the very bottom. So just add a wavy line. It's about the thickness of 2 fingers on the bottom, although you can make it higher if you want more snow on the bottom area of your picture. And then what I did was I added slightly more blue-gray on the bottom and blended it up into the white so that perhaps there's a little bit more shadow on the bottom, but the top part is brighter. So make sure you fill all that area in. If you notice that maybe some of the pink is showing through, you may have to go back and add a second coat later. But for the most part, it should show up very opaque, especially using all that white in there. So what we're going to do next is paint reflection lines in the water. And I'm using an angle brush for this. This is a 1/4 inch angle brush. And we're going to mix white and yellow together. So with this angle brush, it's kind of nice because we can get these thin lines with the angle brush. So you're going to hold it to where the top part of the angle brush is on the left, and I'm going to paint left to right strokes, and it's going to create these very thin lines. And so these water lines are going to be right under the sun. I started by mixing white and yellow together to make a very light yellow, but I ended up just grabbing that titanium white on my palette so that it can show up a lot brighter. And so I'm just going to paint these water lines right under the sun, left and right. It creates kind of a vertical sort of shape right there under the sun. And then I'm also going to paint water lines all throughout the water area. So not just under the sun, but also other places as well. So I'll just take my angle brush and grab some white and just do left and right little tiny horizontal lines all throughout the water area. You can try to get your lines to be more denser further in the distance and kind of more spread apart towards the bottom. That'll create some depth in your water. So I'm just taking this brush and making really tiny horizontal lines everywhere to create that effect. Super easy. And then what you can do is go back and add some yellow in there if you want, or you can leave the lines just white. But I did go back over some of the lines with some yellow to add some more color variation in our lines. So grabbing the yellow and adding maybe some more yellow in the sun area because the sun would be reflecting some yellow. And then you can rinse your brush off when you're done with that. And if you want, you could add a little bit of gray reflection as well, as if the snowy, shadowy area would be reflecting somewhat into the water. So just a few little lines right below the land gives it some indication that maybe that's reflecting in the water as well. And so I'm done with my 1/4 inch angle brush for now. I'm going to switch back to my round brush. This is the number 4 round brush, although if you feel more comfortable using an even smaller brush, you can do that because we're going to paint these small little pine trees way in the distance. So if the 4 round is too thick for you, try a smaller brush. And when I do pine trees, I start at the top. So I'm going to do blue-gray for this. This is blue-gray, maybe a tiny bit of white in there. but I'm going to start at the top and stroke downwards to form the shape of my pine tree. You want to make sure that your paint is right there on the tip of your brush because that's going to create those small little strokes for you. So start at the top and stroke down, forming the shape of that triangle. And this tree is a little smaller, so you can do as many trees to your liking. You can add white into your trees to make it look like they have snow on them. And I'm going to switch to this smaller brush here to show you. So this is a number 0 brush. It's smaller than that number 4. And it's going to be helpful in creating even smaller trees. So this one is going to be smaller and thinner. So again, same thing, start at the top, stroke downwards, create that triangular shape. And if I wanted snow, I can dip my brush in the white and kind of go over it again with the white. And the nice thing about these little trees is they're way in the distance, so we don't have to make them look super detailed either. So I'm just going to repeat that sort of process for as many trees as I want. I can do clusters of trees on the right, kind of add some in the middle. But kind of think about your placement of the trees because also we have this very large silhouette of a tree that's going to be up front. So it may be overlapping some trees, and you just kind of want to think about where it might be overlapping, and perhaps we won't paint any trees there because that big tree is going to be covering it anyway. And if you want to, you can have some of your trees overlap the sun. I did not have any of mine go over the sun, so they were kind of next to the sun because I didn't want to have that sun hide behind the trees. I wanted a full view of it. And these trees over here are really, really tiny, so a very steady hand for these tiny, tiny trees. And our land that kind of dips down on the right over here, might allow us to paint some larger trees in that area if we wanted to. So this tree can dip down even further. And I'm not doing any trunks on these trees, but if you wanted to go back in and paint some tree trunks, they would be very small, very subtle, but they wouldn't really show up. So you can do the blue-gray little line right under the trees. And I'm just going back and adding a little bit of white on some of the branches. And I know this video is speeding up a little bit, but I'm just doing the same technique all over, creating some color variation by making some areas darker, some areas lighter. And I may even have some reflection of the trees in the water. So I can take my little round brush and paint a few little dashed lines right under the trees to make it look like they're reflecting in the water. The next part of this video, I'm going to show you how I painted that large black tree that's in the foreground that is a very big part of this painting. So that tree was all done with Mars Black. And I started off with my number 4 round brush for this tree, but I did use a lot of that angle brush for the branches. So I'll show you how I did the branches later on with that angle brush. But for now, let's use that 4 round and let's slightly water down that black to get it to be kind of an ink consistency, because with this tree, we really want that black to be nice and flowy so we don't get frustrated right away. And so what I'm doing here, as soon as my hand moves out of the way, you'll see what I'm doing. But I'm starting at the trunk and I'm kind of sketching out what I want my trunk to look like at the bottom. So it kind of opens up like a trumpet at the bottom. And I'm using the tip of my brush to kind of sketch out my tree. So it starts out wide at the bottom and it gets thinner towards the top, and the sides of the tree are kind of wobbly, so to make it look more natural looking instead of perfectly rectangular, you want to kind of wobble your lines as you're drawing it. And If you want, you can actually sketch this out with a pencil on your canvas first if you feel more comfortable doing it that way, or even a piece of chalk or a chalk pencil. And so I'm just going to sketch this out with my brush so my trees kind of open on both left and right. So it's going to create kind of the letter Y. And then I know my hand is in the way and it's kind of frustrating here, but it'll move. So I made my branch of my tree go into 3 different areas. There we go. So it opened up into 3 different areas, and those 3 different areas kind of branch off into the letter Y. So you can see it split into 3, and then the top part goes into like a letter Y. The left part branched off. We had 3 different branches, and the right part is going to have something special happen to it here in a second. But what I'm doing here is just filling in my trunk area solid with the black. So I got that filled in. And over here on the right, I want this branch to kind of go across the sky a little bit. So this is kind of an important branch here. So I'm going to take that, make sure that my black is nice and flowy, because if it's not going to do us much good. And I'm just going to take it and I'm going to release the pressure of my brush so that my stroke gets thinner. So right here at the base of that branch, it's kind of nice and thick. So I'm pressing kind of hard with my brush, but when I release the pressure, my line gets a lot thinner. So when you get to some of these really thin branches, try switching to your angle brush. I have the angle brush right now, and this angle brush really allows us to kind of control these thinner lines. So I'm holding this angle brush so the top part of the angle is on the left and I'm painting towards the right. So it's because the brush is at an angle, it's going to allow us to create these really thin lines for these branches. And I know that I do so many trees in a lot of my paintings. I do different brushes for the trees. So sometimes I'll use a flat brush for the tree. Sometimes I'll use the round brush for the tree. So there's not one right or wrong brush for the tree. It kind of comes down to what you feel more comfortable using. So if you really like this angle brush, you can use it for all of your branch trees, but I like to vary my brushes sometimes. Sometimes I won't use the angle brush and I'll just use a really small round brush for these small branches. But the nice thing with this angle brush is we can get some very angular lines that are going kind of in different directions, kind of more sharper and not so much curvy or smooth. So I'm just taking this tree and I'm just adding more smaller branches that are going off of the larger branches by using this angle brush. And then for some reason I want another branch over here on the left. So I'm kind of envisioning what that will look like before I actually go ahead and do it. It's going to overlap. I don't want it to overlap my pine trees. I want it to kind of go underneath it. So kind of like that. Oh, it overlaps it a little bit. And then I'll do a few kind of branches that are coming out from it. These are going to be very thin because I don't want to take away from the fact that there's pine trees way back there. And so I'm just going to take this brush and kind of have a field day with it. I'm going to keep adding these very thin, tiny branches. So to get that really, really thin line, you got to hold that brush very, very lightly. Have a very light hand. If you have a paint pen, like a black paint pen, that's a very fine tip. That would be super helpful for this because then you can really control it with that paint pen. Also, if your lines are not flowing, if your lines seem too thick, adding a teeny bit of water into the black can really help get your branches to flow a little bit better. So just keep painting branches that are kind of going at all kinds of angles. They can be overlapping each other. So go as crazy or as conservative as you like with these branches. I did a lot of branches because I was having a lot of fun using this angle brush for all these little tiny branches, and I thought it looked interesting to have some of them overlap each other. And then you want to just go ahead and make sure that all your trunk is filled in all the way, and you can have the bottom base of the roots kind of extend out a little bit if you want. So when you're done with your tree, you can go ahead and rinse that brush off, and let's wait for that black to dry a little bit before we start putting the snow on the branches. But I'm going to go ahead and paint my falling snow that's kind of all around the picture. So to do the falling snow, you'll need some fresh titanium white. You don't want any blue or anything else mixed with it, so get some fresh white. And you want some fresh water because we don't want any muddy colors mixed with this white. So rinse your water out, get some fresh water, fresh titanium white, and then we're going to go ahead and paint some more snow. So I did a little bit of snow right there on the bottom. But to do these dots, you want to make sure that your white is right there on the tip of your brush. And you're just basically going to paint dots everywhere. And super simple. You don't have to do a lot because it's not a big snowstorm or anything like that, just some snowflakes falling gently around the sky. And another thing you can do instead of doing the tip of your brush, the bristles, you can use your little zero round brush for that, or you can also use the back of your paintbrush handle and just stamp on all of your little dots. So there's different ways you can do that. And then I even did some dots that are overlapping the water area as well. You can even, if you wanted to do snowflakes, even though it'd be kind of a tiny, you would need a really tiny brush to paint actual snowflakes, but you can possibly do that with a white paint pen. So for the snow that's on the tree branches, you just want to take the white and add literally piles of snow, globs of snow in different areas of the branches. So right here, there's a big sort of notch inside the tree. So I did snow that's kind of hanging out in that area. And then kind of wherever there seems to be an area of flatness in the branches, just add some snow. And it's okay to have that sort of overlap the black area of the tree. And then you can add even some snow there down there on the roots in the root area on the bottom of the tree, and just anywhere you think the snow might land. And it's not super snowy, maybe it's kind of the first snow of the season, so that's not completely covered in snow. It's just a few little snow piles here and there in the tree. So it's up to you how much snow you want to add to the tree. And then I'll also show you how to add a little bit of shadowing into the snow as well with the blue-gray. So before your white dries, grab a little bit of blue-gray on the tip of your brush, paint it on the bottom of the snowy area, and kind of paint it up so that it blends with the white. And that'll make it look like the bottom part of the snow has a little bit of shadowing. It gives the snow a little bit of a 3D effect as well. So if you need to, you can go back and add a second coat of titanium white, depending on how the coverage is of your white. And then I added a little bit more of the white kind of on the bottom area. I liked how that white and blue kind of intermingle with each other to give that snow some shadowing. It's a very pretty color to use in the snow, the blue-gray color. I thought it looked really nice with the pink background. I'm going to add some snow to the trees in the distance by freshening my palette with a little bit of titanium white. And I'm going to use my little round brush, my number 0 for this. And I'm just going to go back over some of these trees with some more white to give them some more snow. And I'll also paint a few more trees in there as well. Now that I have my big tree in there and I can kind of see what space it's taking up, I can go in and do some more things with the little trees in the background. And I'm going to go in and kind of touch up my water lines right there under the sun. Wanted to add a little bit more white to make that glowing a little bit more. And then I wanted to soften the sun up over here. So I took the white and yellow and I outlined the sun area just to make it look like the outer part is a lot more brighter and it's not just the half circle shape. You don't have to do that, but I wanted to have the outer part kind of look like it was glowing a little bit more. And then I took some more of that blue-gray and just kind of painted that land that's right there under the sun. Added a little bit more white in there as well. And I wanted to add a little bit more white right there way in the distance. So all of these little tiny touch-ups. So I'll tell you the real story about the snowman in this scene because I was going to leave my painting just like this. And I liked it, but I knew it was missing something. Like I couldn't figure it out at this point. So I thought, okay, well maybe I'll add more trees. So that's what I'm doing here. With that little 0 round brush and the blue-gray, I thought, okay, well maybe it just needs more trees because every painting, more happy trees makes for a better painting. But it was still missing something. I thought, well, okay, well maybe something in the lower right-hand corner, but I'm not too sure what to add. So what I did was I took a picture of my painting and what I do when I'm trying to design something of the painting, I'll take a picture of it and then I'll use my cell phone to kind of draw on the painting what I think would go good there. And so I tried the snowman out. I thought it would be kind of cheesy to put snowmen down there, but I thought, well, maybe, because it's kind of a pretty romantic sunset, so why not? So I drew the snowman on my phone from the picture that I took, and it was like adorable. So snowman it was. Super romantic sunset winter scene. Of course, a husband and wife snowman, a couple's snowman. So that is where the idea for the snowman came from, and that's what I'm going to show you here. So if you agree with me that there have to be two cute couple snowmen over here in the lower right, so you can go ahead and do that. Or you can do a whole family of snowmen. It doesn't have to just be 2 snowmen. So it can be one snowman. So it's up to you. It's your painting. But so to do the snowman, you start with the 3 circles of the titanium white. And I was kind of using my hand earlier to sort of measure it. The snowman, they're not that large, so maybe about 4 or 5 fingers high. And of course, each little circle kind of gets smaller. So fill that in solid with titanium white. And then to do the shadowing, there's a lot of shadowing in this one just because it's sunset and could be casting a lot of shadowy areas. Kind of adds to the effect. But I use the blue-gray for the shadowing. So after you make your 3 circles, leave it wet because we're going to do wet on wet blending. You'll grab some of the blue-gray and you'll do the shadowing with the blue-gray. So add a little bit of blue-gray on your brush, kind of blend it out. So blue-gray mixed with white, not just pure blue-gray because that would be a little bit too dark. And you start at the bottom of the circle and you just kind of blend it up into the white. So just on the bottom, paint the curve on the bottom, then grab more white on your brush and kind of blend it and kind of go circular there. Accidentally grabbed quinacridone on my brush there. Don't want to mix any magenta into that snowman. That would be a little bit too complicated. And just use the white to kind of go in kind of a circle and then blend it up. I did a little bit too much over blending there, so I had to go back over and do that. So blue-gray at the bottom of each of the circles, blend it up, try not to over blend. And then, so we'll do the same thing over here on the left for the girl snowman. I guess she'll be shorter. So this, my husband and I, I'm the shorter snowman, he's the taller one. And then you'll just pretty much do the same thing. So do the 3 white circles and then grab a little bit of the blue-gray on the tip of your brush, paint the bottom area of each of the circle and blend up. You can even grab some more of the blue-gray and do shadow underneath the snowman. And I'm just grabbing white just to kind of touch up and brighten up some of the middle part of the snowman. And when you're done painting the snowman, you'll need it to dry before doing all the features. So you can get a hair dryer and dry it really fast. That's what I did. So when it's dry, you can use your little tiny brush for this because it's a little tiny area to paint. But this is the Zero Round brush in Mars Black for the hat. So I just did his hat. And then all the little tiny features like the eyes and the mouth and the buttons. And then the arms I did with black as well. I didn't use brown, but if you wanted to grab brown for the arms, you can do that if you want. To make an orange color, it's super simple. You just mix yellow with the magenta color, and you'll need less magenta than yellow. So you'll need probably about 4 parts yellow, 1 part magenta, maybe 1 or 2 parts magenta. So you'll mix that together on your palette. If you want to lighten it up, you can add a little bit of white in there, but I did not. So it's just magenta and yellow to make a nice orange color. So you can use that color for the noses. And I had my 2 snowmen looking at each other. So I think it's the funniest thing in the world. The direction of the snowman's carrot determines the direction that the snowman is looking. So I had both my carrots facing each other so that it looked like both the snowmen were looking at each other. So you'll need a nice steady hand for this. It's such a tiny, tiny area, but the carrot literally goes to a point and the base is kind of curved. For the hat of the snowman on the left, I did the medium magenta, and it's kind of one of those snow caps. So I did it that color, and then the little fuzzy thing above it, I mixed the magenta with the white to make a light pink color and did the little fuzzy ball on top of the hat. Then I did a teeny bit of a highlight sort of thing going on this hat here. And that is the last thing I did with this painting. So I am going to go ahead and sign my name over on the left part of the tree. So I'm using a 0 round brush with black to sign my name. Watered it down just slightly to get it to smooth. But that is the conclusion of my sunset winter scene with Snowman. I hope that you enjoyed painting this with me. I'm super excited to be doing winter, Christmas, holiday paintings. I get really excited when the season changes because then I think of all these really great ideas. So I'm very excited to show you what's next. Thanks for watching.